Today is September 23rd, and I wasn't going to make a video, but I'm kind of bored, so I'm just going to talk through what I've done this week. I went back and rewatched a whole bunch of movies, and I added some new ones to the list. So this week, between September 19th and September 23rd, I have watched an additional 10 movies. Out of those 10 movies, I'll say that one of them really did scare me, and it was As Above, So Below. And I'll talk about all the rest of them as well, but I want to talk about As Above, So Below specifically, and why it actually scared me, and why I think that was actually a great movie. It didn't rely on jump scares. There was one jump scare in the whole movie, and it was geared specifically towards scaring the character on screen and not me. So although the character jumped, I jumped as well because spoiler alert that character died from that jump scare. The rest of the imagery, the rest of the visuals, the scenarios that the characters found themselves in put me in a true state of like worrying about the situation if anybody was actually going to survive. Because it didn't look like too many people were going to survive in that movie. And even though it dealt with the supernatural and the creepy and the weird, it never got into the gore of anything. And that's what I liked most. As creepy as it was, and as many people died, it never got gory. So it was really intense and really good for me. So I liked it a lot. As Above, So Below scared the crap out of me. Scared me to the point where I had to pause the movie, take a second, breathe, and then go back into it. It freaked me out that way. So As Above, So Below. However, right after I watched As Above, So Below, I watched Hush. Hush is a movie about a deaf girl living alone in the woods, being hunted by a killer who just wants to kill her for fun. And I couldn't figure out if it was because I had literally just watched something that scared me and something that was not outside of the realm of possibility that I got. I thought that was such a good movie. I may go back and watch it again, but it seemed to follow a lot of the similar tropes and norms of other thrillers and horror movies. So I watched that one, and I couldn't find anything that the characters did that was abnormal, even when uh, the knight in shining armor came on screen, he didn't really fall outside of what the characters would normally do in a normal situation. So I really like that one, but it wasn't necessarily a horror movie for me. Um, right behind Hush, I watched Oculus, and it seemed oddly familiar for me for some reason, but I couldn't figure out why until like halfway or 65% through the movie, I realized I've watched this before and it didn't scare me and it was boring, but it was really well acted. So I had to watch it with like a new, fresh set of eyes. So I watched Oculus again. And then I watched Insidious and I started to get bored and I started to get upset and it started to aggravate me. And I don't know what else I can do about that movie. It's not that scary. The visuals, the cinematography. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. It's just for a cinephile, it's not going to scare you, and it's going to make you. For me, it made me laugh in certain parts because I was like, I saw that one coming. But that's with that. I did go back and rewatch Tucker versus Dale. Tucker and Dale versus evil, and I had a laugh riot. Everything made me laugh in that movie. So I don't. Maybe it's something wrong with me. Maybe I am so desensitized to horror and people dying, which sounds terrible, or dying in weird ways that these the deaths were the best part of the movie. True enough, it was supposed to be a comedy, but it also put me in the mind of Shaun of the Dead and how just random the deaths were of all. I don't know what else to call it. Like, so you just put people in these horrific situations and then they just die. And I was like, and it's not as bad as the Final Destination series or anything like that, but it was just weird. Um, like I said, I did go back and rewatch The Green Room. Um, I didn't even feel the tension in this one, and I think it may have been because I was just kind of on a binge. Um, I said I watched My Soul to Take. What was My Soul to Take? Do I remember My Soul to Take? My Soul to Take. My Soul to Take. My Soul to Take. What was that? Hold on. Oh, this was the Ripper nonsense. Oh my God. I don't even remember how many people there were. It was like 14 or 5, 8, 8 or so characters, all born on the same day as a maniacal killer gets killed, and they all have to commit some horrible dialogue ritual at a lake. They're all in high school, but for 16 years they've had to do the exact same ritual. How? How, Sway? You're telling me at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, you're coming out to the woods by yourself to do a ritual? Really? Oh my God, that movie was so dumb. Oh, I hated that movie so much. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, but it was bad. Um, and then I took a second and I rewatched The Babadook, and The Babadook almost put me to sleep. Um, and I think it almost put me to sleep because I rewatched it from the standpoint of an insomniac patient. Um, and I think once I put the insomnia piece and the stress of dealing with a husband who had died prior to the movie starting, the stress of dealing with children, the stress of um, just being single and having to deal with the ideals of parenthood, like it's just stressful. And couple all of that with a lack of sleep, your mind does strange and weird things to you. So I I didn't really blame her for some of her outbursts. And then by the time the supernatural and the spiritual things got in, it was like looking for a twist that this is all in your head or something. Except when he stabbed her in the eye. All in all, I watched 10 movies this week. Uh, 12 if you could include John Wick. Uh, I had to throw in John Wick just to break up some of the imagery in my head. All in all, out of the, hold on 1 second, out of the 16 movies that I've watched, only one has really scared me. And I don't have high hopes for the remaining 27. So in 2 weeks, I've watched 17 movies. And I'm supposed to make it through October on these movies. I don't have high hopes, but what I really believe is going on is that I have to redefine my definition of horror. Not for the audience, but for myself. Because one of the things is, and I'm go back to as above, so below. One of the movies that really scared me um, earlier in life, outside of this decade of movies, was Rec or Quarantine. Quarantine is the Spanish version. Rec is the American version. Quarantine, no, Rec is the Spanish version. Quarantine's the American version. Um, and I think it's the claustrophobia of certain situations. Um, so I think because I do have issues with being in closed spaces, um, I think those movies did do a number on me a little bit more than others. So I think that is why I don't get scared so much because they my brain thinks of ways to kind of escape other situations. Um, and I believe I'm a survivalist. Um, so I'm gonna throw this one in, and we'll jump all over to next week and see what else is coming up. I remember when I was watching The Mist with M Night Shyamalan and uh, Thomas Jane. Thomas Jane. And at the end of the movie, they did the suicide killing, whatever you can see it however you want to. And I'll never forget my initial reaction to that was, you guys are absolutely dumb. I am never killing myself. I'm fighting to the end. You are going to have to take me out for me to give up. I'm never giving up in a horror movie. So, in a lot of these horror movies that I watch, it seems like people jump to the most extreme conclusions and never think their way out of a situation. So I was like, how do we get here to the fact that no one ever puts themselves in a truly terrifying situation? Or maybe they do. And maybe it's just my brain is completely wrong and backwards and messed up in a million different ways. So, yeah, that was this week. Or not even this week. That's been the last 5 days. The next 5 days. So what's on deck? I do plan on watching a couple others to finish out this week. I'm going to watch The Escape Room and Happy Death Day 1 and 2. Right behind those, and then I don't know what else I want to see. Nothing else on this list has really jumped out at me except for Terrified and The Terrifier. Both of those seem like foreign films, foreign horror films to watch, so I may jump into those. But this week has been, yeah, I was interested for a minute. You scared me. I'll admit that part. You did scare me. But 1 out of 17 violent and horror images, and I only got one movie. You gotta do better. But what do I know? Forget about the rules.